Hello YouTube, this is SteelPrice667, and we are starting or included in a brand new league. This league is called the LTM. What I understand is the LT stands for low tier, the M is something else, I do not know. But first and foremost, I want to give a quick shout out to OG Albino for inviting me to this league. It is a low tier league, using tiers very similar to what I ran in Clash a year back, so I'm very excited. I've really enjoyed the low tier meta for running it in Clash. I suck at it, first and foremost. I don't understand what 99% of these mons even do, especially within like the low tier meta itself, so it's definitely going to be an experience, a fun one, trying to figure out what these do throughout building and throughout using them. So first and foremost, we'll get into what I've picked and drafted for everything. But a little bit of background, 16 team league. I believe I was like pick 11 or 12 or something like that. I was towards the bottom, which I'm totally okay with. I think it's better than like a middle pick. And honestly, I just thought there were like 14 good mons on the board that like I was okay with wherever I ended up. So starting out with the first pick, we end up picking Entei. Now, Entei is, honestly, I think it was like a top 5 mon within the tier itself. It's able to break through so many things so easily with its massive attack, Sacred Fire spam, and there aren't that amazing bulky waters within low tier. I mean, there are a few, but there aren't as many, so it's able to like to get out of hand a lot quicker. It has the ability to run both physical and special sets, though physical is a little bit better. It has a very nice speed in the 100, especially for low tier when there aren't as many fast Pokemon, since most of the fast Pokemon are usually a lot better since speed is the name of the game, especially in Generation 9. So with a lot of the low tiers being slower, Entei is able to outspeed a lot more than it usually would be able to with the base 100, so able to do that. Massive HP stat, which is really good. It can start setting up subs against more passive mons that best damaging moves are like Nightshade or Seismic Toss. I can set up a sub on that and be able to tank a hit if I'm like a more max HP variant of Entei. So very excited. Breaks through a lot of things. As I mentioned earlier, it struggles versus water types as its move pool is horrendous. For like it just gets terrible coverage. I don't know why they made Suicune and Raikou pretty good, and they kept making it better, and they just left Entei on the wayside. So overall, it's just it hits really hard on mons it should be able to hit. And mons it can't hit, it really can't touch. So I decided to pick up Shaman, which is probably one of the best ways to hit a water type. Probably one of the best water checks in general because of Seed Flare. Being able to just knock the special defense down by 2 stages, 40% of the time, which is pretty big. That's even more likely than Skull getting a burn. So Shaman just being a huge addition, and also with Natural Cure, it can sponge any of the like toxic or Skull burns that water types want to do to it, and then it can switch out and it cures it. So that is amazing. I'm able to just tank status for free with Shaman. I could be a rest Natural Cure set even if I wanted to be funny, that sort of thing. So why are we? I also made Shaman my Terramon. So Shaman runs into a lot of the same issues that Entei runs into based on its coverage being garbage. So with Terra, Shaman becomes a lot bigger of a threat because it can like have a Terra that could be its extra coverage that it's lacking. You can say you're facing like a flying type. Shaman doesn't really have great coverage to hit flying type. I could be a Terra Electric, I could be Terra Ice. I can gain that coverage that is necessary to hit the flying types. Shaman has access to Swords Dance, and with its base 100 stats all around, I could be a Swords Dance sweeper with Terra. Because the biggest issue with Swords Dance Shaman before Terra was Shaman's physical move pool. Even though its special move pool is pretty bad, its physical move pool is even worse, as it's just Seed Bomb. So with Terra, I could be Seed Bomb plus another typing that could really help with Shaman's coverage and just start being a lot of mons. So That's why I made Shaman my Terramon. Going into the draft, Shaman was going to be my Terramon no matter what. I looked at it as like, I think Shaman's like a top 3 Terramon within this format, within what all the Terramons that were allowed. So I was like, I'm going to take Shaman. So I took Shaman round 2. I was kind of scared. I didn't know if it would make it back to me round 3. I really want something that can take on the water types that NTA really struggles with, and Shaman does an amazing job at that. So we took Shaman round 2. And then round 3, we took Klefki. So as I was building my team, I was like, I love Klefki in Standard. I was like, Klefki in low tier should work pretty well as well, as there are still some setup threats in low tier that Klefki can really help out. Also providing spike support. There aren't, like, even like in regular Standard, there weren't that many great hazard removal options. Low tier just makes it a lot worse because you get rid of pretty much all the amazing spinners, leaving stuff like, I think like Blastoise is like the only great spinner left. So taking a lot of amazing spinners and then being able to set up screens for the team as well. Spike support, Thunder Wave, Fairy Lock. Klefki can do a lot of different things for regarding support for the team. It can also say it wants to set up, it can also click Foul Play, so it's not just set up bait for physical attackers. It can Thunder Wave things, so if you're not a Dark type, you still have a chance to get paralyzed. So Klefki is just like the amazing support mon. It has the best typing in the game, Steel Fairy, so it's able to resist a lot of hits. As I'm able to tank a lot of hits, it also gets Magnet Rise, so it can also take on ground types to a certain degree. So very excited to use it. Very happy to have it, as it's just the support glue I think the team is going to need. Speaking of it, Feraligatr is my 4th pick. So I took Klefki and I was like looking at it, I was like, okay, if I'm taking Klefki, I want to take Feraligatr next because I want that powerful sweeper that just destroys things with screens up. Sheer Force plus Dragon Dance or Sheer Force plus Swords Dance Feraligatr really destroys the whole entire meta of low tier. There aren't many mods that's going to be able to take on Feraligatr 1v1. The defensive pivots just don't really exist for Feraligatr, so... And Feraligatr does have like really nice coverage in order to handle most of them as well, so... Feraligatr just being my next pickup. Very excited to use it. I don't think I've really ever used Feraligatr before, so... it's going to be a fun one. Its speed and special defense is a little bit lacking, but I have ways of covering that up. And speaking of which, Galvantula is a way to cover it up. So webs, sticky web support for Galvantula, huge for stuff like Feraligatr, stuff like Entei, just mons that are kind of fast but would really appreciate it type of thing. So Galvantula acts as a speedy mon that also can set up webs. Low tier just once again, low tier doesn't really have a lot of fast mons, so Galvantula can actually work as a good fast mon pivot for this tier, and also getting webs up for mons like Feraligatr, for mons like Entei, as discussed earlier, is just really great. It can also bait out boots users, so I will be able to tell boots users before I even like get stuff like hazards like rocks or spikes up. I can tell, okay, this mon is boots because it's not taking webs, speed drops. I mean, also clear aim could be like the same thing there, but I think boots would be like more common for taking on Galvantula specifically. Also, Galvantula, it's with Compound Eyes, Thunders are able to hit 91% of the time, which is better than Draco Meteors, so that'll be amazing. Bug Buzz, Thunder, Giga Drain. It has like a good move pool for a Galvant for like an electric type, so it should work out pretty well. It's once again lacking defenses, but Klefki can kind of help with the screen support there. Also spike support, like bringing mons down in range of Galvantula. So very excited to use Galvantula here. Team is really starting to shape nicely. Next up, we took Dragalge. So I had my physical breaker in Entei, and I wanted my special breaker. I don't really view Shaman as a great special breaker because base 100, there are still a lot of like especially defensive mons within low tier, so This included like base 123 special defense. Like even though it like Seek Flare is such a great move, it's just if you don't get the Spadef drop, Shaman is just hitting like a wet noodle. So I wanted Dragalge as like that special breaker with adaptability, and adaptability like dragon moves and poison moves. Its typing is huge for being able to like break through most of the meta, as there aren't many mons that would want to switch into Dragalge. It's like the steel types and that's it. And there aren't that many great steel types within low tier, because steel type is also a really good typing. So a lot of like the good ones, you know, would be in standard play instead of low tier. So it really helps out Dragalge in that way. It has the pivot ability within flip turn. It can set up T spikes as well. So I can get like poison chip on a lot of mons, that sort of thing. So it just works very well. It's just like that special breaker that I think the team needed. So next up, we end up taking Hitmontop. At this point, I was like, okay, I have my hazards. I just want removal now, and I don't want to grab Defog, because I don't want to get rid of all the spike support that Klefki provides. So I wanted something that could spin and do well as a spinner specifically. Hitmontop works very well as that archetype, as the ability to Intimidate really helps in like being able to switch in, intimidate something, so that you can spin on it at the same time, as -1 physical attacker is going to do enough damage to just take out Hitmontop like that. So being able to like get that Intimidate off into being able to spin is huge for Hitmontop. It is also able to take on most of the rock setters, like as they would be stuff like the steel types or the rock types. Being able to hit them really hard with close combat. And then also I could be Technician, I could be Mach Punch. So I could be Technician, Mach Punch, so or Bullet Punch. So Technician can really help with Hitmontop as well. I do believe it gets triple Axle. So I could be Technician, I could be Intimidate. It has two really good abilities in both of those, so Hitmontop can be a threat as well as it is a very reliable spinner in my eyes. Next up, we take Palossand. At this point, I wanted a Ghost type that can start blocking spinners in case I do face up against like some spinners like the Hitmons. Or I don't really think Palossand will be working very well against other spinners like Blastoise or Tentacruel, though it does take on the aforementioned like other spinners. So I wanted a spin blocker that could be a bulky spin blocker. I could get up rocks. It could be a nuisance for a lot of mons. If you have a weak water move, it can take advantage of it with Water Compaction, get that +2 defense, and just become pain to deal with Shore Up as well. So I ended up taking Palossand. I love Palossand. I've used Palossand in standard quite a few times. So I really love taking it here in low tier. It gets up those rocks. It acts as like a bulky sponge as well for a lot of like not super effective hits. Good defensive pivot to take on like ground types or electric types, even fire types like physical fire types. So it can sponge those hits, deal good damage back, hit relatively hard, gets good moves, Scorching Sand, Shadow Ball, Earth Power, that sort of thing. So very excited to use Palossand. Next up we have Regirock. And at this point, looking at my team, I really didn't have a Flying Resist. Klefki isn't amazing for Flying Resist, as it's just not dealing any damage back. It's not really... It's taking a Brave Bird, but what's it doing back? It's not really... It can just paralyze it, that's about it. Foul Play maybe, but I wanted something that can at least deal good damage back to the flying types, so I ended up getting Regirock here. It also works as a secondary rocker to Palossand. Its defense stat is huge. It's able to take on any of the physical attackers within the tier itself. It can go boom, it can set up rocks, it can hit stuff relatively hard with Rock Slide. It gets access to Curse, so it can start setting up on options as well. So overall, it works as that physical attacker, as that sponge for those physical attackers as well. As I already have like good special defensive mons and stuff like Hitmontop and Dragalge, I wanted something to take on the physical mons, so that's what I ended up taking Regirock for. Next up, for the 10th pick, we ended up taking Sneasel. So, Sneasel was the I lose the psychic type still pickup. It's the fast dark type. It hits. It does have access to knock. It hits pretty hard. It could be a choice band set. It could be a bylight set, enabled to like take on hits a little bit better. Its defenses are not great, so I don't know if bylight would be really a great item for Sneasel. It can also be pickpocket. It can run no item and just be pickpocket, steal the item of other mons. So just, I guess the only thing I would have to be careful about is like trying to steal Black Sludge from poison types, but its typing is great offensively. Ice and Dark don't really have a lot of good switch-ins. If they want to switch into like bulky water types, I'm able to knock off their passive recovery like leftovers. I can take out boots with Sneasel. I can take out setup sweepers with Ice Shard if I can like get them to the point of like Ice Shard range. So Sneasel just works as like a mon to like prevent sweepers, pick things off, also get knocks off, and like help support the sweepers in the back for my team. Finally, with the 11th pick, so the low tier, I guess OG Albino gave way too many points. The draft board is just how many coaches we had, and based on how many mons were left on the draft, it was really hard to use all of your points. So I ended up with a lot of points left over, but I still got, I think, a really good mon for my final pick. I ended up taking Oricorio. Now, the beauty of Oricorio is you can be any of the 4 forms. I could be the electric form, I could be the ghost form, I could be the fire form, and I could be the psychic form. So if there's like a matchup where, say, like Psychic goes really well into it, I can bring Psychic Oricorio. If there's a matchup where I think Electric does very well against my opponent, I can bring Electric Oricorio. It has access to the Dancer ability, it has access to Quiver Dance. With Dancer, I'm able to take on other Quiver Dancers. I'm able to take on... I can threaten Swords Dancers, even though with its pitiful attack, I don't know how much I'm really threatening them. I can set it with the Dragon Dancers to still keep a faster speed than them. So I think Oricorio overall is just... I think a great mon, is a great sweeper. It pairs very well with Lefty, specifically getting up those screens and that hazard support, knocking things down in range where Oricorio can sweep later on. It still has access to really good moves, Hurricane, and then its signature move being the Revelation Dance. I can just hit it with like my special typing and deal good damage with it. It's not anything like Thunderbolt or Flamethrower. It's similar to Shadow Ball, and it's not like Psychic, but it's still like able to hit relatively hard, and then it's still like Oricorio is still a threat that needs to be prepped for. So I end up taking 11 mons, where like each of the 11 mons can come on a given day. So my opponent does force my opponent to have to prep for 11 mons. It just hopes that one of them doesn't come and build a team weak to said mon. If I end up bringing that mon and surprising my opponent, I could deal massive damage with it. So I think I'm very excited to use this team. It's a very offensive, heavy oriented team. I don't really have great ground resist. Shaman and Oricorio are it, and then Shaman, the big issue with Shaman is it's my Terramon, so it can lose its ground resistance if I want to Terra into something that can like take on my opponent very well, like say like an electric or an ice type of thing. So I do have to be very wary of like ground types within this tier. I don't think there are that many amazing ground types, but they still exist, so I do have to be very weird about it. So yeah, that is the team. Thank you all so much for watching. Uploads will be every Saturday, so do look out for that. And I will catch you all next week. Peace.